Hi guys, it's me, Arden Leigh. I'm here back tonight with another video for you, and I'm going to be talking tonight about the elements of spellcraft, which is fun. It's a little nervous for me to talk about. As I've mentioned in some of the other videos, I've been more transparent this year in talking about magic, witchcraft, and the occult, which sounds a little weird to even say out loud, because again, we are talking about things that are very difficult to prove. And as we know, that's kind of that is an outside of the comfort zone for me. But I've had this in mind for a little while. If you look up a lot of different schools of thought, there are a lot of different ways where you can learn to cast a spell. What are we doing when we're setting an intention, when we are, essentially putting together a host of synchromistically symbolic props, shall we say, things that represent the different energies that we want to call in into, a candle, a sigil, an altar, whatever you're using for a ritual, that we're using physical things in the mundane to represent the things that that we want to project into the spiritual. What are we doing when we do that? And there's a lot of places you can read about that. I have, and they're great. It's awesome that those are at our disposal. But like when you have a moment where you're like, oh, I get it now. I've been reading about this. I've been understanding it on a cognitive level, but all of a sudden something happened that really clicked for me, and I saw what it is in my own experience with my own two eyes, and now I really grok how it works. I had one of those experiences a couple months ago, and I wanted to share that with you because I hope that in explaining my experience, maybe some things will kind of clear up for you too. I know it's super weird because, apparently we can carve some weird looking symbols onto a candle, put some glitter on it, anoint it with some oils, light it, think some thoughts over it, and stuff in the world changes. And that's not really supposed to happen in the world that we're living in. But it does. It really, really does. Results happen. I've seen them happen. My friends have seen them happen. Stuff changes. And the example I'm going to tell you about tonight is it's really easy to think of witchcraft as something where we're like, well, focused intention and just like changing your thoughts around something, believing that something is possible. Of course, you're changing your own thoughts about yourself, and then that manifests change in the outside world. That's a big component of witchcraft, obviously. But then there are some things that you just can't explain, some things that you could not have helped happening with the power of your own beliefs alone, or so you thought. So I had one of those cool things happen to me, and I'm going to explain all the elements that went into it because, to be honest with you, I was not even intending to cast a spell. What happened was I had a friend with a house that had a swing in the backyard, and I would spend a bunch of time down there, and I had a swing in my backyard growing up when I was a kid, and I would go and jump on the swing in my friend's yard now as an adult, and I would just feel so much joy, and it would be so relaxing and so soothing to just swing. So sure enough, what would happen would be that, everyone in the house but me would go to bed, and I'd be like, I'm good, guys. I'm going to swing for a little while longer, and then then I'll go to sleep or whatever. I'll see you in the morning. So there was something I was thinking about at the time that I really wanted to happen. And it was a pretty, it was a long shot. It was like something that involved a handful of specific people who, most of whom didn't really know each other, or wouldn't have really hung out of their own accord, in a specific location. And I was just like, that would be a really cool thing to happen. Like, that would be a cool group of people to organize. I think we would all have a really fun time. So I would be on this swing, fantasizing about this thing that I thought would be really neat. Like, oh wow, that would be cool. And just kind of playing out conversation scenarios in my head because my brain never shuts up, obviously. And one night, as this was happening, the swing broke and I flew through the air and I landed on my ass, and less than a month later, everything I'd been thinking about came true. And I have no explanation except for the one I'm about to give you. And this is what I'm going to say about it. Let's look at the elements that go into casting a spell. There are several. You don't have to use all of them. You can use just one modality. I think probably the more that you use, the stronger it will be. But here are the 5 that I can name in this particular incident. So, 1, we have an intention. For me, it was not my intention to cast a spell, but as I was thinking this thought, manifesting, making a wish, we'll call it a wish in this instant. I was making a wish, but we'll call that an intention. So you have to have a focus, right? If you're doing a spell, obviously, there's something that you want to happen. So that is the thing. It's your desired outcome is your intention. So that is step 1. There was definitely intention because it was the thing that was on my mind when I was on the swing. Then, secondly, there is something we call raising energy. Raising energy could be dancing. It could be, physical, physical exertion of any kind. Even like sometimes you'll see Reiki practitioners, go like this, or tarot readers will kind of like do that over their card. And all that is it's like, it's gathering up that, that energy, that friction, that bodily exertion, whatever it is, and there's so many ways of doing that. Chanting, music, dance, physical exercise, and in this case, it was swinging. So we have the act of swinging, the act of exerting my body, raising energy. So that is element number 2. We have intention, we have raising energy. Element number 3, we have trance. We have an altered state of consciousness. And, in this instance, there is the fact that swinging is repetitive motion, so it puts you into trance. When I do things over and over, when I repeat actions that are mindless, then that really allows me to slip into trance quite easily, because our bodies go on autopilot and our minds kind of drift into this trancey hypnotic state. You'll notice that happens if you're driving somewhere that you are accustomed to driving and you no longer have to think about where you're going to turn. You just go there and then your mind wanders and drifts. And so by the way, like that, in terms of hypnosis and stuff, we all go into trance, in and out of different trance states. And the only difference between someone who is good at it or not good at it is just that they understand what it is and they can put themselves there and bring themselves out of it. But we can all and we do all go into trance at different times. So we have altered state of consciousness coming from a repetitive action. I may also have been consuming some cannabis because I was with some of my besties, and that is also an altered state of consciousness. My friend Ashley Manta talks all the time about use of cannabis in witchcraft ritual and intention setting in order to just kind of open up the gates a little bit and allow information to come in more easily. If things can come in more easily, obviously, they can also be projected more easily as well. So we have altered state of consciousness induced by repetitive motion and substance use. So that's number 3, altered state of consciousness. Then we have number 4. Number 4 is the idea of something crossing the veil to the other side. And in this case, it was the swing. So because the swing broke when I was in midair, it went from being a swing, an example of, the Plato's cave Platonic ideal of a swing, to being a piece of wood with some rope attached to it. It was no longer really embodying swing. There was a breaking that happened. This, in ritual, this is why we burn things. We're sending something to the other side. We burn a piece of paper with our message on it, the thing that we want to bring in or release. We burn a sigil, something that, is representative, a representative symbol of the intention that we want to project in the universe. And, we burn it, we flush it down the drain, we, like we use, you know, we use, sorry, we use when we do candle magic, you know, we burn a candle down. So there was a candle there, we burn it, it's not there anymore. It has crossed over to the other side. And the idea behind that is that when it crosses over, it brings our intention, it puts it into the astral, and from there it can manifest into the physical, essentially. So we have the idea of crossing over a veil. There was a swing there, and now there is not a swing there. That's number 4. And number 5, we have the state of no mind. No mind is something that Grant Morrison talks about with chaos magic, and he gives the example of himself going bungee jumping, for example, to achieve this state. You can also do this with ecstatic dance. You can do it with fasting. It's very similar to the state of altered consciousness, but I'm gonna call it a little different because there is that real adrenaline rush. In sex magic, people project sigils, like during orgasm, because you're in a state where are no other thoughts. And in this case, this was me flying through the air and landing on my ass, essentially. Oh my God, the swing broke. Am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna be hurt? You know, that split second when I was in the air, that state of panic, and then landing, and I was fine. Obviously, the swing was only a couple feet off the ground, but yeah, if you can do it bungee jumping, absolutely. I think a swing breaking while you were vigorously swinging in midair can definitely be a way of inducing the state of no mind. So there I was. I had all those 5 elements. I had an intention, the wish that I was thinking about and imagining playing out in my head. I had what was the second one? Altered state of consciousness? Is that where I was going next? The trance state from swing. Oh, right, raising energy. I had, I had intention, raising energy from swinging. I had an altered state of consciousness from repetitive motion. I had the idea of the swing breaking and crossing the other side, becoming no longer a swing, becoming a useless pile of rope and wood. And I had the 5th, which was the state of no mind, the state of panic as I was flying through the air and about to land on my ass. And less than a month later, everything that I was thinking about happened. Which is weird. Like, it's super weird. And I'm sure, like, there are a lot of you out there being like, wow, Arden, it's weird that you're talking about this. And just please understand, it's even weirder being in it. It's really weird. My friend Vanessa Irina of New Jack Witch says the thing about magic is that it always surprises you when it works. And that is the truth. So it's pretty cool. It's one of those things where it's like, people are going to say, well, how can you prove that this just wasn't a coincidence? And I'm sure that someday there will be people who will understand exactly fundamentally how magic works. But what I want you to think about is how many things that you trust in, that you believe work because you've seen the results, that you don't actually understand how they work. Unless you're an electrician, you probably don't understand how it works when you flip on a light switch and you see the light bulb light up. You just know that it does because you've come home and you've turned on your light switch and you've seen it happen. And other people, as you were growing up, told you that happened, and it continued to happen on a fairly consistent basis. You can, for example, for as much baking as I do, I love baking. It's just such a great stress relief, again, repetitive motion. I don't actually really understand how it works when you think about it. It's funny because I make a cake batter. And normally when you heat something that's a liquid, even if it's a thicker, more viscous liquid like cake batter, like something like, I don't know, clam chowder, if you heat it up, usually it doesn't get more solid. If anything, it gets more liquid. So I don't really understand what about, the eggs and flour and everything that are in the cake batter actually cause it to congeal and become a solid cake. I don't know how that works. I haven't thought about it. Probably if I studied food science, then I might know, but probably I would just more know, like, well, if I add more baking soda, or if I add, if I just use egg whites, or if I do this is the results I'm gonna get. I'm probably not even still going to know why or how it works, or how all of the molecules rearrange themselves to make that happen. But I don't need to. I bake a cake, I put it in the oven, and it comes out and it's done. So, take what works for you and leave what doesn't. but I'll tell you for sure it works for me, and it's really cool. So, can I explain it entirely? No, but I can't not explain it any more than I can't explain plenty of things that I take for granted every day as just being a part of the world that I live in, that I know that I can trust are going to work when I do them. And certainly I stay humble because that's important. But for better or worse, those are 5 specific elements of spellcraft that, if you put them together, apparently stuff happens. And it'll be really cool for you when you start putting into practice and you have that moment too, where right now you're watching a video and you're like, okay, I understand this cognitively, I can take notes and whatever, but when you see it for yourself, it's gonna blow your mind. So have fun, be ethical, don't do any bind work, don't bind anybody's free will, just ask for the things you want. Trust that the universe is listening. Have a great night. I will see you next time.